Joseph couldn't leave the parakeets on his terrace without food and water, so he went back inside to gather some supplies for them. He got some birdseed, water, and a small bowl, and placed them on the table next to the birds. He watched as they timidly approached the bowl and began to eat and drink. As the day went on, Joseph found himself checking on the birds more and more frequently. He couldn't help but feel a sense of responsibility for them. After all, they were helpless creatures who had lost their home in the storm. Joseph felt a deep desire to help them in any way he could. Over the next few days, Joseph continued to care for the birds. He bought them a small cage and placed it on the terrace so that they would have a safe place to sleep at night. He also spent hours researching parakeets online, learning about their dietary needs, habits, and behaviors. Before we continue, please take some time to subscribe to Beyond the Ordinary, like, and share this video with your friends. It might brighten their day and inspire them to do good. Also keep watching because an important lesson awaits at the end of the video. As Joseph spent more time with the birds, he began to notice something remarkable. They had distinct personalities and seemed to recognize him. They would chirp and tweet happily when he came to visit, and would often perch on his finger or shoulder. One day, as Joseph was sitting on the terrace with the birds, he noticed something strange happening. The birds began to sing. It wasn't just any ordinary singing, though. It was a beautiful melody, unlike anything Joseph had ever heard before. The 4 birds sang in perfect harmony, creating a symphony of sound that echoed through the neighborhood. Joseph was awestruck. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He sat there, listening to the birds for what seemed like hours, lost in their song. After that day, Joseph's life changed. He became known as the man who had rescued the singing parakeets. People came from all over the city to see the birds and hear them sing. They would sit on Joseph's terrace, mesmerized by the beauty of their song. Joseph became something of a local celebrity. He was interviewed by newspapers and television stations, and even appeared on a few radio shows. He told the story of how he had rescued the birds and how they had repaid him with their incredible singing. But for Joseph, the real reward was the joy he felt every time he heard the birds sing. He had never experienced anything like it before. It was a feeling of pure happiness, of being completely in the moment and at peace. In the end, Joseph realized that he had received much more than he had given. He had rescued the birds thinking he was doing a good deed, but in reality, they had rescued him. They had opened his eyes to the beauty of the natural world and the power of compassion. And so, Joseph continued to care for the birds, providing them with food, water, and love. He knew that they had become a part of his life, and that he would never forget the incredible gift they had given him. Joseph was heartbroken. The birds that had once been so battered and bewildered had now regained their strength and confidence, only to be forced to leave their new home. Joseph knew that he couldn't keep the birds if it meant losing his home, but it didn't make it any easier to see them go. As the days passed, Joseph couldn't help but feel like something was missing. He missed the chirping and fluttering of the parakeets, and he missed the sense of purpose he had felt when caring for them. One afternoon, as he sat on his terrace feeling particularly lonely, he heard a familiar chirping sound. To his surprise, one of the parakeets had returned. The little bird fluttered around Joseph, seeming to express joy at seeing him again. Over the next few days, the other 3 parakeets returned as well. It seemed that they had somehow found their way back to Joseph's terrace, despite their forced departure. Joseph was overjoyed to have the parakeets back, but he knew that he couldn't keep them in such an uncertain situation. He decided to reach out to a local bird rescue organization, hoping that they could provide a safe and permanent home for the little green birds. When the rescue organization arrived, Joseph felt a pang of sadness as he said goodbye to the parakeets, but he knew that he had done everything he could to help them, and he felt grateful for the time he had been able to spend with them. As the rescue organization took the birds away, Joseph couldn't help but think about the lessons he had learned from his experience. He had learned that even small acts of kindness could make a difference in the world, and that there was something magical about the bond between humans and animals. Despite the sadness of the situation, Joseph felt a sense of hope. He knew that there were people and organizations out there who were dedicated to helping animals, and he felt inspired to continue doing his part to make the world a better place. As he sat on his terrace, watching the rescue organization drive away with the parakeets, Joseph smiled. He knew that he had made a difference in the lives of those little green birds, and he felt proud to have been a part of their journey. Joseph had always been a kind-hearted man, and it was no surprise when he took in 4 little parakeets that had lost their way. He cared for them, nourished them, and ensured their safe return to the skies above. Joseph was proud of himself, and rightly so. But what happened next was something he never could have expected. As days passed, Joseph longed to see his 4 feathered friends again, and to his delight, they finally returned. However, it wasn't just the 4 of them anymore. They brought with them a whole flock of birds. At first, it was 1 or 2, but as days went by, more and more birds came to visit Joseph on his terrace. The parakeets seemed to have communicated to other birds that Joseph's terrace was a safe haven, where they could find food and shelter without any harm. Joseph's heart swelled with pride every time new birds came to visit. Soon, Joseph had a collection of over 1,000 parrots coming to his terrace on a regular basis, seeking shelter and food. They came in every season, but their numbers swelled during the rains, with over 6,000 birds flocking to his terrace during cyclones. Joseph's landlord was not happy with this development, but Joseph didn't care. He was content knowing that he had made a difference in the lives of these birds. People from all over the city would come to see the beautiful sight of so many birds gathered together. Years went by, and Joseph's collection of birds continued to grow. He became known as the Birdman of Chennai, and his story spread far and wide. He continued to care for these birds, providing them with whatever they needed. He had created a sanctuary for them, and they knew they could always count on him. Looking back on his journey, Joseph knew that he had done something incredible. His actions had touched the hearts of many, and he had created something truly beautiful. He knew that he had made a difference in the world, no matter how small it may seem. This story is a testament to the power of kindness and compassion. It shows us that even the smallest acts of kindness can have a huge impact on the world around us. It also reminds us of the importance of caring for our environment and the creatures that inhabit it. If we all took a page out of Joseph's book and showed kindness to those around us, imagine the positive impact we could make on the world. So let us all strive to be a little kinder, a little more compassionate, and a little more like Joseph, the Birdman of Chennai.